Hello, welcome to this PPR video on the production function theory of the firm. The first thing I would like you to do is define what is meant by the short run, please. Okay, so the short run is the time period where at least one factor of production is fixed. Can you draw the product curves now? So draw the curves for total product, marginal product, and average product. So you should have got something like that. And from this then, what theory applies to the short run? What explains that total product curve increasing, so output increasing initially, reaching an optimum, and then starting to decrease? What theory is that referring to? So hopefully you've got that that's about the law of diminishing returns. Key thing to take away here is that whenever the marginal product is at zero, the total product is at its maximum, and also that the average product curve cuts the marginal product curve at its highest point. That's key for understanding the costs and the cost curves, which we'll look at soon. What is meant by the long run now? So the long run is whenever all factors of production are variable. So what theory then comes from, what theory do we talk about in the long run in regards to the production function of firms? So hopefully you've remembered that that is returns to scale. What are the three types of returns to scale? So we've got increasing, decreasing, and constant returns to scale. So for example, increasing returns to scale would be if the firm doubles its scale of production, the total output would increase by a greater proportion than that, so it might triple. That would be increase in returns to scale. Constant would be if the inputs double, the scale of production doubles. That would mean output doubles. That would be constant returns to scale. And decreasing would be if we doubled our scale of production, output would increase at a less than proportionate rate than times 2. Okay, so they are the three types of returns to scale. So let's move on to costs now then. What are the variable costs a firm might have? So hopefully you've got the variable costs are costs that change in regards to how much output a firm is producing. So they include things like raw materials, packaging, electricity. Now have a go at fixed costs. So fixed costs are those that do not change. They have to be paid regardless of output. So if output goes up massively, fixed costs stay the same. They include things like salaries, insurance, to name a few. Next question, how do you calculate total costs? So total costs are fixed costs plus variable costs. Next question, how do you calculate average costs? So hopefully you've got average cost as total costs divided by output. And now marginal costs. So hopefully you've got that marginal costs is the change in total costs, the margin, from producing one extra unit of output. So now if you could draw an average cost curve, a marginal cost curve, and an average variable cost curve, which is just the variable costs divided by output, on one diagram, please. So you should have ended up with these three curves here. Key thing to note here is average fixed costs is the difference between the average variable costs and the average total costs. And the average fixed cost will always be falling. It will always be downward sloping, which is what that gap is sort of representing between AVC and AC, because you are dividing the same fixed cost by an ever increasing output. So that will continuously fall. Next question then, please. Can you tell me what happens whenever there is an increase in fixed costs? If you're looking at that diagram, what would happen if there's an increase in fixed costs? Well, if there's an increase in fixed costs, it is just the average cost curve would shift upwards. So just the AC. Next question, what would happen if there's an increase in variable costs? So hopefully you've got that there will be an increase in both. So you would see the MC curve and the AC curve both shift upwards. Moving on to revenue, can you define what revenue is, please? So revenue is the income generated from the sale of goods and services in a market, and it's calculated by P times Q. Now obviously we've got various types of revenue, so see if you can define marginal revenue, total revenue and average revenue, please. So there's the three types of revenue you have to be aware of. Now see if you can draw a diagram for the MR and AR curves. So hopefully you've got this. What you should always remember is the MR curve slopes twice as steep as the AR curve, and it's also good to show it cut in the x-axis, because we're talking about revenue maximization. MR has to equal 0, and that is whenever total revenue is therefore maximized. Moving on to profit then. What is normal profit? Define it, please. So hopefully you've got something along the lines of normal profit reflects the opportunity cost of the entrepreneur's investment and funds to finance a business, which is included in the average costs of a firm. So normal profit is when AR equals AC. In business, that might imply breaking even and not making enough money, but in economics, because we include that opportunity cost of what the entrepreneur could have done with his funds elsewhere, our average cost is actually higher than what it actually should be. So the business is making enough to maintain its position within the market. So there's two types of profit then that we need to know a bit more about. What is subnormal profit? And see if you can draw a diagram, a monopoly diagram showing subnormal profit. So hopefully you remember that subnormal profit is whenever a business makes a loss, and that's whenever the price is less than average costs, and that diagram would look a little bit like that. So you can see the AR is less than the AC. You have to sort of jiggle about your monopoly diagram to show that. Now you have a go at doing the same for abnormal, or what we call supernormal profits. So supernormal profits are when AR are greater than AC, and if you draw our normal monopoly diagram, you should have got a situation where supernormal profits are achieved where MR equals MC. And finally, a question about whether a firm should continue in the market. So see if you can please identify the firm's short-run shutdown price, please. So a firm's short-run shutdown price is, or when they should continue to operate if AR is equal to AVC. If AR falls less than AVC, a firm should shut down in the long run because it's not feasible for them to continue. Okay, so there's everything in regards to the production function, looking at costs, product, revenue and profit. You can screenshot that there and repeat the video until you can answer all the questions correctly, please. Thank you.